show is proudly brought to you by AudioPub. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Mr. Phil Ceberano. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Customary handshake. Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Well, you know what? I was leaning out the window the other day, last year, end of last year, and I heard some music coming from the gallery next door.
Yeah.
And they've always got a band, always got a wedding band in. I thought, oh, I'll listen to these guys. And then I heard the guitar going, and I thought, oh, this is pretty good. Okay, this is really good. So I took off down the stairs, and I poked my head in, and it was you. Okay. And then I thought, I have to ask Phil on. So that's how it went. But I was thinking about you for quite a while. I think I bumped into you once at Deluxe, and I thought I'll ask him one day. But yeah, it just seemed to be made to happen. So how have you been anyway?
Been really good.
Busy
as ever. Actually, I'm trying to develop a new habit, and that is to not say when people ask me how am I.
Yes.
I've been saying I'm busy, and that's not the correct answer. The correct answer, I suppose, is I'm good, or I'm tired, or I'm happy, or I'm going through some tough times at the moment, but not you're busy, because we're all busy.
Yes.
You know, and
if you live close to Melbourne City, we just had a couple of days out at Bright, went out there, and it was just fairly relaxing, and only 2 or 3 days away, and I came back because we basically live in the city, and I was like, oh, okay, I've got to pick up my pace again. But now, Phil, I was looking on your YouTube recently.
Okay.
Not only do you play guitar, which we'll talk about in a moment, because that's why I've got you here, but you fish, surf, and cook.
Yep.
And guitar.
Yeah.
How are you doing all of these things at once, Phil?
Well, actually, this links into what I was just saying about being busy. Over the years, I've had to look at mental health.
Yes.
Right? So you're really, really busy. And even if you're really, really busy doing something that you really love, like playing guitar and touring and recording and, racing off to gigs. Some people I know will have a schedule of 2 or 3 gigs a day, different things. And, you have to be able to switch off. You have to be able to kind of find something that you can do that isn't work related. Even though playing guitar for a lot of us is a lot of fun, it doesn't feel like work. And even now when I do gigs, it sometimes feels like, when I get paid, it feels like a bonus. But it is work, and you need to find things to do where you can switch off. So getting away and going fishing with my Uncle Jeff is fantastic. It's completely outside everything else that I do. It's just me and my Uncle Jeff lives in Frankston. He runs a 4-wheel drive workshop. Oh, wow. And he's he's that kind of guy. And so that's that thing I've got. And then cooking is something that I'm sort of following on in my dad's footsteps, and my grandmother it's a really great way to kind of switch off from work, but then tune into a kind of home and family dynamic, And to be able to have some friends around or on a weekend and cook a great meal, that's just, we miss that a bit in the busy city life that we've got. We're eating out a lot, we're Uber eating,
So easy.
Yeah.
Melbourne's very cool for, we've switched over to cooking now, but Melbourne's very cool for different cuisines and recipe ingredients, and you can get anything here. It's amazing.
We're actually spoiled because sometimes in 1 week you might have eaten Vietnamese, Indian, Italian, great Italian food, fantastic Middle Eastern inspired food from sort of Maha kind of vibe, Greek food, everything. Very, very spoiled. You go overseas, go to the States, it's tough.
Absolutely.
So we're very spoiled here.
Absolutely.
But stepping it up a little bit more and learning how they put those flavors together.
Yes.
My next thing that I wanted to not master, but just know a little bit more about is creating curries and those really complex. They put sometimes up to 10 or 15 different spices in
like
there.
A Thai curry or an Indian, any curry.
Any curry,
Yeah.
Sri Lankan
Yes.
curry. You know, like just, and there's just different things that they might, different sort of twists. I love that.
The mortar and pestle
That's
gets
it.
a lot of use at home. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying about mental health, because I don't even have a guitar at home.
Right.
And people that know me say, man, I'll come over and we'll play at home. And I was like, I don't even have one here, you know, because it's work. But funnily enough, I get a lot of students in here that have PTSD problems and policemen, ambulance drivers, even ex-NAM vets, and not they're NAM vets, they're not ex, but so it seems to be a soothing sort of pastime for them. But Phil,
Yes.
down to guitar.
Guitar.
How did you get started in guitar?
I've told this story a few times, and every time I tell it, I go right back to, let me see, my first introduction into show business or the arts, the performing arts, was very, very early on. My mother took us to see Jesus Christ Superstar at the Palais in St Kilda with John English as Judas,
Yes.
Trevor White as Jesus.
Did it have who's the easy beat? Was Stevie Wright in that one?
Stevie Wright, I think he was in there.
Wow.
I think so.
He was in it for a little while.
Yeah, I think but
someone will write.
But I mainly remembered John English. He was just so dynamic, and he looked cool, and he had the flares, and he had, you know, he just really looked cool. So there was that, and then there was West Side Story.
Okay, great.
Right, so combine all that in with seeing old movies and Marlon Brando and James Dean. I just wanted to be an actor, right? And that was my thing. And so, but the problem was that at school, the only way you could do that kind of thing was doing a musical.
Yeah.
Right? So they would have musicals like Annie Get Your Gun, Guys and Dolls,
Oliver or something.
that sort of thing, you know. And I said, why aren't we doing like Jesus Christ Superstar? You know, because it's so, you know, it's rocking and it's now, you know.
That'd be cool.
But because I bought the soundtrack album and there was a movie. And
Yes, that's
right. So this is just the pathway. So Ian Gillan's doing vocals for Jesus.
Yeah,
And I think someone's playing guitar on it that's just a hot shot, and it's just rad. And I've gone, this is all coming together. So, but then the letdown was high school, and you're doing Guys and Dolls,
Yes.
you know. But it felt great anyway. So I was like, okay, I'll be an actor. Meanwhile, and we'll talk about martial arts a little bit.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, my dad had a student who wanted to do a deal where instead of paying for private lessons, he would give me private lessons in guitar playing. He was a guitarist.
Oh,
and so my mother asked me if I was interested in playing guitar, and I sort of said, well, sure, I'll give it a crack. That seems good. It wasn't something that I'd...
How old were you?
12?
Okay, yeah.
12-ish?
Yeah.
At primary school, I dabbled in playing drums because I heard that break in that Beatles song. I think it's on Abbey Road.
Oh yeah, the on the side 2 there.
You got it.
Yeah.
That break.
It's the medley.
Yeah, in the medley.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to be a drummer. That and the intro to Hot August Night.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It was a huge. My mother loved that record.
Yeah.
I've heard it so many times.
Well, when
It's
I was a
great
kid,
record.
at parties, it was Hot August Night, Fleetwood Mac Rumours,
Silk Degrees.
yeah,
Gags.
yeah, all of that stuff, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought I'd like to be a drummer, but I found that it's just the practice pad and the paradiddles
Oh yeah.
I was, well, why can't I sit behind a drum kit? I want to sit behind a drum kit, you know. So I gave that away, and then the guitar thing came up, and I was like, okay, I'll give this a go. So it was the Yamaha student model acoustic guitar and learning basic chords.
Yeah.
And that was how I first got into it. And it was just a sort of, it wasn't like my mate Brett Kingman had been playing guitar ever since he was like 9, because he heard Slade Alive, right? And was like, that's it, I want to play electric guitar.
Nothing else he could do after that.
No, that's right. My story isn't as sexy as that.
I think because you were listening to show musicals,
yes,
and that sort of thing,
yeah,
it's a more advanced development for your ear, I think, than some pop hits of the time, you know. But
yeah, that's wow, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but absolutely. That can also lead into a bit of disappointment as well, because if your favourite musical is West Side Story, that music is very complicated, and kind of Rites of Spring inspired, kind of wild, meet Bernstein, and it meets jazz, and it does Latin, and it's like all over the place. And so I couldn't just play that on a Yamaha acoustic guitar. And in fact, there's that lead line at the da-da-da-da-da. I think I struggled to play that because I just didn't know, how do you play that? So I'm learning off my guitar teacher chords, basic chords.
Open chords.
Yeah, open chords. And then he came to the class one day, and he was just warming up and kind of was just going, he was going, just that
shuffle,
just that. It was just the kind of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, stop right there.
Yeah.
We're onto something here.
Yes.
What's that? And so he says, because he was teaching me from this Spanish book, and it's got a picture of a guy with a guitar on the front, you know, and it's, you learn the notes of the guitar and all of that, and I just couldn't get my head around that, because I was like a skateboarding punk who was like, I just want to. But when he played that, I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. What is it?
Yeah.
You know, and he goes, oh, that's the blues,
bluesy riffs.
It
still works to this very day.
Well, that's all
people love it,
and that's all I really know. People I can kind of break it down. That's all I really know. But he was like, "Would you want to? I can show you how to enter into that world." But he said, if you go down this road, it's a little bit like The Wizard of Oz or something, or one of those films of you reach a fork in the road. If you go down that road, you better be prepared to take the journey, because it's not just, I can teach you this for days, and we can learn a bunch of folky songs, and you'll be fine. By the campfire, you'll be fine, right? But if you go down that road, the bluesy road, it's a rite of passage sort of thing. So I said, yes, I want to go down that road. So one of the first things he did was take me to the Valhalla Cinema, which no longer exists here in Melbourne, but it used to be like a kind of an arts cinema, and he took me, I think, to see Woodstock, the movie.
Great, cool.
And there was a couple of things that really just hit me like a ton of bricks, and that was Santana.
Yes.
Playing Soul Sacrifice.
Soul Sacrifice, yeah, it's a classic.
Classic. And obviously Hendrix at the end.
I love that. I love the sound he gets on that.
It's incredible.
Gig. Yeah,
incredible.
that maple neck strat.
Yeah, and he's got that Roger Mayer, it's like a uni vibe thing.
Yeah.
The whole time. So those things really hit me, and then there was that 10 years after. He just died, actually.
Did he?
Yeah.
Alvin Lee.
Alvin Lee, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. Oh.
And that rocket,
yeah,
sort of
blues scale at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Which I've never been able to get down,
same.
ever.
It's so quick.
Right? You know, that look. It does...
You got the look right.
Yeah, it does go a little too long,
Yeah.
right? And there's a funny thing about that scene with him 10 years after, is that it just goes for maybe 5 minutes, just too long. He could have ended it shorter, but he brings it down, he brings it back up, and I want home. I want home. Anyway, and then at the end, just before he walks off, someone rolls a watermelon onto the stage as a gift,
right.
and he actually goes back out and picks it up. And so there, after this, you know, a history-making performance and a history-making movie, he's carrying a watermelon on stage. I noticed those little things.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I noticed those little
That's
quirky
very cool.
things. But yeah, it was the blues thing, and then Hendrix, Santana, and then I heard that Led Zeppelin 4 album.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, what's going on there?
That's the Stairway record.
That's the Stairway, and it opens with Black Dog.
Black Dog.
Right.
Great.
And I was like, I'd never heard anything quite so sinister. It just sounded sinister.
It does.
Yeah.
I think he was into the occult.
Well,
Came across, sort of.
it kind of comes across, and I work in PR now with my wife. That's my day gig, and talk a lot about branding and what your story is. And there's a lot of I think that Jimmy Page was very clever in branding and the mythology behind the brand of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, we may never know.
Yeah.
He might have been just taking the piss. It's like, oh God, I bought one book on the occult, and everyone makes a big thing about it, you know. And I played upon it, you know. If it was going to sell records, great. You just never know. That might have been the thing. Bob Dylan's great with that stuff as well. The myth stuff.
Oh, I definitely think no matter what genre of music you're doing, or you need some sort of story and image and all that PR stuff behind you.
Yeah.
To sell it, if you want to sell it down traditional means.
Totally.
It's, you know, I'm always amazed at how people find their little niches. Like Zeppelin had that,
absolutely,
that occult sort of thing, but Black Sabbath went even weirder. But you know.
Well, what's great about the Black Sabbath thing is you hear Ozzy talk about it, and he says, well, it was the late 50s, early 60s, and there was this revival, this thing about like vampire and monster movies. And so we thought, how can we put that in? That's all it was.
Yeah. It's usually the simplest ideas work quite well. So.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have? Oh, I was going to say about teachers. It's so important to find a good teacher, because someone that you can relate to. I remember the very first guitar lesson my mother took me to it. I think it was just a year old. I think it was 13, so it was a year older than you. And it was the classical guy with the thing, and he was a nice enough guy, but I just thought, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to read the notes. And then she found a rock guy in Ashgrove in Brisbane, and he was a cool guy, and it was like, let's do some rock stuff, and it's like, great. And that sort of, then I could jump into other things from there, but I had to have someone that I liked, that I could relate to, and I looked up to, and you know, introduced me to all this cool music, and I was like, oh, it's classic. So,
well, that guy for me was, if you're out there, Lou, you know who you are, Lou Biazzo.
Shout out to Lou.
Yeah, Lou. He introduced me to all of that stuff, and he also showed me a couple of licks that I just do the whole time. And he was like, he would just sit there and go,
but they're just classic, great pentatonic licks.
Great licks.
I think that sometimes people's, your average person's hearing ability for music is usually fairly narrow-banded.
yeah.
And I think if you play outside of that, if you go, you know, bebop jazz or something, there's only a small selection of people that can listen to it and go, oh, yeah, I kind of get it and I like it. But
and on that, it becomes an education piece. If you want to, there's been some great musicians over the time and that exist today that can do that stuff, taking it outside, that do it in a way that's welcoming, rather than exclusionary.
Yeah, it's got a bit of melody to it, and you can, you know, like I love Gilmour's playing, and Mark Knopfler, you know, uses the full scale and this sort of thing, but it's, you remember those solos, they stick in your head forever. It's like, oh yeah, you must have thought about that.
You know what, one of the things I think of a lot is guitar playing through the 80s, right? And it's really easy to dismiss the 80s because, you know, in many ways it was very trashy, but at the same time, a lot of those musicians had come from the 70s. The blues rock thing wasn't working for them, so they had to reinvent themselves somehow into this thing. So there was the post-punk thing, and then there was this kind of new romantic kind of thing. You listen to the guitar solo from Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and that is a guy who knows his shit. Like, he's not just playing a blues scale. Like, he's actually knows how to play around the chords, and it's beautiful. It's really cool. So that's a sort of like, that invites you into a world of like, oh wow, that's great. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a sort of, I guess it's modal, or it's like more, it has a broader colour palette. Yeah. I remember seeing Santana, and a lot of people diss Santana because he does his Santana thing. But if you do have to spend some time in America to realise that the population difference over there, if there's one Jimmy Hocking here in Australia, there's 5,000 Jimmy Hockings in the States. So
it's a big market.
And so if you do stumble across a thing, a sound, your producer's going to say, just do the Santana thing. Just keep doing that Santana thing. And he's like, but I want to get into this other thing. No, just do the Santana thing. You know what I mean? And so it's too easy to dismiss him. But I remember seeing a concert of his at Rod Laver Arena. Terrible room for sound, but he had Dennis Chambers on drums. He was doing his thing where he's wandering and it was so connected to the soul and so inviting people into that world. Even if you're not into guitar playing, a lot of people say, oh, I'm not into guitar solos. It's just it's self-indulgent. But he does it in a way that's like, come with me. You know.
I love his play. I love him. Have you seen? There's a doco you would love on Netflix at the moment. The name escapes me, but it's about Clive
Davis. Seen it.
Oh,
amazing.
Great. Yeah. He discovers Santana, and then he reinvents Santana.
Yep.
And he was saying, what am I going to do with a 50-year-old guitar player? He just solos, and bang, we'll write some songs. We'll put Rob Thomas in and get a good singer, and it's fantastic. So
okay, let's look at that. If you were too cool for school, there's no way you would get Santana and Rob Thomas in the same room.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And if you were too cool for school and you had to actually work with those two, you'd say, well, let's get some good writers in. Rather than, hey, Rob, why don't you come up with something? He writes a great song because he's outside the genre looking in, going, how can it... Sometimes that's a good perspective to have rather than inside looking out. And I find some players that over-intellectualize music are looking too much from the inside out rather than... It's an interesting conundrum to be in, I think, as a musician. I mean, I'm not really a recording musician apart from YouTube, but sort of an interesting watching that doco. How many times, like you took Barry Manilow, it's a weird example, but Barry was talking to Clive saying,
Clive, this is what I do. This is what I do the best. I want to do this. And Clive said, well, why don't you do what I want you to do first, and then when you've got loads of money and airplane, then you can come back and do what you want to do. And he's like, oh, all right. And of course, the guy who was outside of the box with the ears, who could hear those radio-friendly hits.
Brilliant.
And that's what happened. He did very well.
Exactly.
So.
Similarly with Bob Dylan, you read the excuse me. Oh, burp. You read the Bob Dylan.
We'll leave it in.
The Bob absolutely leave it in. It's real. You read the Bob Dylan Chronicles, and in the first couple of chapters, he talks about his biggest inspiration in his career, and it's not some little folk guy, and it's not Woody Guthrie. It's his publisher.
Oh, right.
Little Jewish guy uptown, a tiny little office that sold his early songs out to some pop artists, which meant that it could afford him the time and could fund his creativity.
Yeah.
It's a very uncool formula, you know.
Yeah.
But
I just can't believe how many hits he wrote that other people made famous. You know? It's, even to this day, something will come up and I thought, oh, wow, I didn't know he did that. So
exactly,
it's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. So again, a little businessman seeing it from the outside, saying, "Well, Bob, you're great. You know, you're great. What are you going to do? You're fantastic. You know, but you know, where are you going to be in 20 years? You know, you got to have a backup plan. Your backup plan is you're a great songwriter. I can get some of these songs out to these pop acts, and it's going to make you, you know, a living."
Well, I think if you are a great songwriter, you probably don't have time for the marketing and promotion and all that sort of stuff. So you need people like that. When you were a kid in your family, was the whole family musical? I know, of course, your sister sings. But
I can tell you that whole story if you've got the time.
I've got the time.
Great.
Long form interviews here.
Yeah. Well, we were early days. My dad was in the Marine Corps, the US Marine Corps. He was born and raised in Hawaii, and he was a street fighter, like a rough street fighting guy. And he started playing trumpet in the Salvation Army band, and that put him on the straight and narrow. And then from there he went into the Marines, and he kept up his trumpet playing, and went into the drum and bugle team, which was a very famous touring Marine Corps thing in the 60s. This is pre-Vietnam, and that's how we got out to Australia and met my mother.
Okay.
At the same time, he's like a karate nut, and was a pioneer of karate out here in Australia.
That's right. Yeah.
So our whole family was kind of, as the real little kids, it was all about karate. There were people coming to visit, and that were all karate people, and we all trained. My brother trained. Kate, not so much. She was more into dancing and being a performer. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do until maybe a couple of years ago. I'm still trying to find that out.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But yeah, it was martial arts, and there was a little bit of music in the like the household, the family home. But it's not like, my grandpa used to play piano by ear, and we had a lot of records that we would play, you know, and Mum took us to see Neil Diamond at My Music Bowl in 1974. We didn't have tickets, but we stood up outside watching, you know, through the fence. That would have been a big tour. It was a huge tour.
Yeah, he was right on top of the world then.
That's it. So. He was right there, you know. And music in the 70s, it seems to me that my memories were that music and listening to the radio and hanging out, that was kind of everything. So, and also the music kind of was like the soundtrack to the subcultures of the time as well. So you had your Sharpies and your Toughs, and they were listening to Lobby Lloyd and AC/DC and Rose Tattoo and a lot of those sorts of bands. So that kind of like, and Status Quo and Suzi Quattro, and so you go, okay, that music is for that genre, you know. And so I'm sort of like working out, well, how can I fit my performing arts kind of vibe in with this sort of music thing? So my journey is pretty much choose your own adventure. I'd kind of created it myself.
That's cool.
And there's a link, and we can get to the link pretty quick. So after high school, like, I sort of immersed myself into acting, and at the same time I was still sort of playing a little bit of guitar, and I was in like crazy kind of art bands at the time. It's like early 80s. And the acting thing didn't really pan out, because I'd go to all these auditions and we love your acting, man, but you just don't have the look. We want someone, you know, it was really Anglo. There was a lot of Anglo roles going, and Australia took a bit of time to kind of get its kind of Keanu and Lou Diamond Phillips look happening. But I wasn't going to wait around.
Did you get some work?
I got some work, yeah. Got a few things on ads and a couple of ABC things. I got a lot of roles as like a Vietnamese drug dealer, or like a punk on the street, or, you know, a kind of a generic Indo-Asian pirate in some movie, you know, with sort of blackened out teeth and.
That's what we thought back then.
Right.
All, Indo-Asian people.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I'm not going to hang around sort of and wait around for this to happen. The band thing was starting to happen, and Kate was singing. Kate's thing was amazing. She was going to be a dancer, and suddenly she's playing a little bit of piano, and our aunt said, well, you should sing too, you know. And she started singing one day, and it was like in a movie. We all gathered around the piano going,
oh, wow.
What is this voice coming out? Seriously, it was like that. And the song was To Serve With Love, and she went on a TV show, and then was discovered and was doing a cover band. Then kind of got into this jazz thing, just not by default. I know how it happened. She got a job working at the Black Cat on Brunswick Street in Fitzroy. It was jazz playing the whole time. And I think she met a guy called Steve Hoper's piano player and started singing jazz. And what back in those days, there was this sort of jazz revival in clubs, like punky kind of clubs, where you'd have a lounge. And this particular club, I think, was called the Drinkers Club, or something like that, the Harbour Club or something. And then she got discovered and went into I'm Talking. Now, I know you had a question about that, and a lot of people have said, oh, Phil, were you in I'm Talking? No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I'm Talking was a very cool, it was like Melbourne's Talking Heads. Yeah. They were really art conscious, cool. They were hipsters 30 years before hipsters existed.
I saw them in Brisbane in the 80s. I think they were on the bill with
Do Re Mi.
It was either Do Re Mi or The Models, something like that. I saw it. It was a show at Festival Hall. I think I saw them twice, but it was. It's always on a double bill.
So Kate's doing that, and I'm thinking, hang on, maybe I should do the music thing. Maybe I should take that a little bit more seriously, because this
Were you still playing guitar?
Oh yeah, still playing guitar, and I got a job in a theatre company, doing community theatre for a couple of years, and I started kind of rehearsing after hours at that space with the band I was in at the time.
Did your friends play guitar? Did your mates play guitar?
Not really.
Okay.
I didn't really have a kind of a clique.
Okay.
You know.
That's interesting.
But I did meet a guy called Gumpy who we kind of had a band together called Battle Happy, and he sung and I sort of like made noises on guitar. Yeah. And then there was sort of like, well, I'm Talking were part of this funk revival.
Yep.
And I'd been playing art kind of guitar with a lot of echo and sort of inspired by the Birthday Party.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And some of that kind of sound.
Starting to get a bit out there.
Yeah, well, I remember listening to Susie and the Banshees and Echo and the Bunnymen, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I remember saying to my mum and dad, listen, I'm exploring this kind of guitar thing in a different way, Mum and Dad. A lot of the times it doesn't really sound like a guitar. You know, I'll give you an example. It would sort of be like where you turn the reverb right up and you go. Right?
It sounds kind of Echo and the Bunnymen meet the Velvet Underground sort of a little bit.
That's exactly it, yeah. And so I would do that sort of stuff, and then it became became quite percussive as well. So you do kind of so the edge thing.
Yep.
What if you got that
Check
sort of
out
thing?
your pedal board in a minute.
Yeah, we will. That's a delay, but I want to get a. This is one of those delays that kind of goes muddy.
Oh yeah.
It's to sort of simulate. It's to simulate those old tape delays.
Oh yeah. So, tell me about this pedal board. I might switch to the infamous Camera B.
Yeah, sure.
And let's have a look.
Okay.
Here we go. Camera B. Boom. Ooh.
Okay. Camera B. So this is my kind of workhorse pedal board.
Yes.
And I'm trying to cram in as much kind of stuff in there as that I might need.
Yes.
But very much workhorse. And for the geeks out there, I've always loved Boss pedals,
Yep.
and I have only recently worked out why. One of the reasons why I like them so much is because they're all buffered.
Yes.
There's this whole thing about true bypass, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yep, okay. But my good friend Brett Kingman has told me that you know, the minute you start bringing leads in and adding a whole bunch of different pedals, it is going to reduce your tone somewhat. And if you've got a buffered pedal in there, that's going to sort it out. So I've got no problem with those.
Yeah.
So I've
Boss pedals are good.
Boss tuner and the CE2 chorus,
Classic.
which is the classic.
It's a beautiful chorus.
It is. Great.
It's the king of the chorus.
It really is. It's fantastic. Okay. I've recently added this booster pedal, which I used to use on an old board ages ago. I play on a lot of gigs. It's a trio gig, so I'm playing a Tele or a Strat or this Strat, and then a Les Paul. Now the Les Paul has really, the output is huge on that. So I have to use that booster to match it when I'm playing the Strat. Surprisingly, this little guy, the Zvex Box of Rock, is fantastic. So if I need to just kind of like get a little bit of dirt and a bit of boost.
It's subtle.
It's subtle, and it just adds a kind of little bit of shimmer on the top. I use it a lot for, say I'm playing a rock tune. Now it's a
great sound.
It's a great tone. So we're entering into a world that I don't even want to go down, but that is that thing of boost.
Yes.
Right?
So that's a booster pedal, not a distortion pedal.
Well, it is. It's an overdrive pedal
Right.
with 2 channels, so it's got a boost thing, and it actually works. It actually does increase the level without compressing it too much for solos. So we've got the. So it does.
That's cool. That's a great sound.
It does work really well.
Who makes that pedal?
Zvex.
Right. Never seen one. That's fantastic.
What's cool about it is it's got a little, it says by these knobs, crackle okay. So that crackle is fine. That's part of the thing. It's a feature. That, and I've also got this Tim.
Yeah, so that's a famous pedal.
Yep. With a boost. So that's just for different, I don't know, just for different styles of overdrive.
That's cool.
Yep.
It's incredible. Tell us about your guitar.
Okay.
Ooh, come back over, Phil.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll tell you about this guitar. We are entering into geek world.
Let's go geek.
Okay, I've spoken about this guitar quite a lot before. It's a 1989 Strat Plus.
Did you buy it new?
Bought it brand new from the factory, and a lot of people have sort of kind of asked me about,
It's a relic.
is it a relic? You know, and I go, no, I'm the relic. It's just been, I've just used it a lot.
It's a great guitars. They're very sought after.
They are.
Even now.
They
the
are.
Ultra and the Plus.
Yeah. And what I like about the story behind it is that it's the American Fender company reclaiming the brand, right? Because through the 80s, the Japanese Strats were actually proving to be very competitive.
Yes.
Right? And some of their attempts, their Strats through the 80s were a bit hit and miss, you know.
The American company?
The American ones. I think
yeah.
they had one called the Elite, and it had all these modern 80s-y kind of things, and it was like push button stuff, and it was like, dudes. A little bit like when Coke tried to bring in the new formula, you know, don't change the thing that works.
Yeah.
That said, though, they had to kind of, there were some other companies like AMG pickups and other things that were happening at the time. They had to sort of like, well, let's look at Trevor Wilkinson's bridges. Let's try, you know, and a lot of luthiers and guitar people out there will say that you only need 2 poles.
Yeah.
You don't need the other.
Yeah.
Right, and on all of our other Strats, we
Yeah,
loosen those screws in the middle and just
Yes.
use the 2 outside.
That's
I
true.
don't know.
That is true.
Yeah, so these work fine. I have this Trevor Wilkinson bridge set to float.
How it looks pretty flat there.
It's like a millimeter up.
Wilkinson makes some great stuff too.
Yeah.
This must be like, was it the first year that they did these?
89.
Close.
I think the first ones are like 87-ish, 88.
Okay. Right.
And I had the original bridge on it, but I changed that because it got a bit crunchy and started to stick a bit more. So I put this nut in.
The roller nut. It's
And-
like Jeff Beck's guitar.
Yeah.
I think he sort of based it off one of these.
Yeah.
So
Well, Jeff Beck's been a bit of an influence. Not that I can play like Jeff Beck, but just because he's always working tones. Like sort of, you know, 1 minute his tone might be, like even in a solo, 1 minute his tone might be kind of. He'll change it. He'll change the whole time, right? And I was like, okay, well, how can I get this guitar to do that kind of thing? So on a Strat, obviously you've got all your 5 positions.
yes.
But I started to get into Queen,
Yeah.
Brian May,
Yes.
and I saw this Hot Licks video, and he was talking about his Red Special,
Yep.
and it's got all these different settings. And I was like, how can I get my guitar to have more settings? So I don't know if I read it somewhere or if I just came up with it myself, but I thought, I wonder if I can get it so that I can have the bridge pickup and the neck pickup on at the same time. So there wasn't a position that you could get that,
Yes.
right? So
That's true. Yes.
so this middle knob here, I've got that as a, so if I've got that on, if I want to get that in,
Yep.
I just wind this.
It's like a blend.
Yeah, it's a blend.
Oh,
It
right,
blends
that's
those
cool.
two.
That's excellent.
And then when I flick it to this position, it's all the pickups on.
Does it still work as a tone on some of the positions, or
No,
now it's just
this is a master tone, but it's also a push-pull.
It's a coil tap.
Coil tap.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
very cool.
it was just so that I could get some more tones in the studio and some different sort of sounds, because like sometimes on their own, like a sound like can be pretty unusable because it's sort of thin and
until you have a row of Voxes all synced up.
Or if you've got a bass player, 2 keyboard players and a horn section, and your part is right, which was the big 80s sort of thing, that kind of sound. The thinner you could get it, it would sit in there, right? But if it's too thick, you're going to get lost in the mix. So I was just trying to work out a way to do that, and I've managed it. Now, a lot of people diss the Fender lace, the lace sensor pickups. I think they're great.
I think they're good too.
They're not noisy, and they do the trick. I've got other Strats that are like a 65 custom shop with all the it's like made like it should.
Yeah.
And my
old days.
My everyone's got one of these stories, but my lost love was my 63L series. Yeah, I had to sell it a while ago, but that was the most Stratty sounding Strat I've ever heard and played, and that was amazing. And that did that thing, that was really. But you couldn't play rock on it, you couldn't play, so that's why I kind of went for that.
Yeah, I think of all the noiseless pickups, the lace sensors are great. I like them better than the Fender noiseless ones. So just those old lace sensors.
Sorry, Fender.
Sorry, Fender.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I like the Kinmans.
They're really, they're really good. Look, on this, I think you can just keep, and we could talk forever on this, and as I do with my good mate Brett Kingman.
Yes.
You can talk forever about tone and pedals and different sounds and things. And at the end of the day, I think the way because I've collected pedals over the years and I've got shitloads of guitars and stuff, and it's stupid. It's just dumb. It's really dumb. It's really dumb because I love it, but if you're spending more on equipment than you're getting back from gigs, you need to start looking at things, right? So that's one of the reasons why I stick to this guitar when I'm doing gigs, is find the tone.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing.
Try and find the tone in what you're working with, and you might stumble across a really great sound, and then eventually, and this is a little tip, this sounds a bit wanky, but I worked it out. I worked something out ages ago, and I was really inspired, obviously, by Hendrix and Jimmy Page and all those, and Eddie Van Halen. That can be a real setback because you're looking at the mountaintop. So I had to stop being a fan. And like you said before about not having guitars at home, I don't listen to music much anymore.
Yeah, no, almost the same, really.
I'm playing a lot more than I listen to music, and I'm the only guy that's making a quid for me, playing music. So I have to actually start to love my own tones, my own sounds, and I'm as insecure as anyone else because there's always someone better out there.
Yeah.
But no, I have to be like.
I think.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally do. I think because we get a lot of guitar players in the shop, and the guys who are out there doing it are the best players, and they're very they're shy and they're almost insecure about themselves, and then it's the person who's kind of is not great but has all the confidence in the world is out there, and I'm like, but I just noticed that pattern. It's that people who are very good tend to be a little bit withdrawn.
Totally.
They're like, oh, did that sound okay?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, just fantastic.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what makes a great player is being critical and just...
Absolutely.
You know.
And this is a good segue. If we've got... How much more time have we got?
We can keep going.
Okay, well, this is a good segue into martial arts, as
Let's
a matter
talk
of fact.
martial arts.
Because...
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Because... I've found very similar parallels between martial arts and music and musicians and martial artists. There's a similar kind of thing, and it's the word humility.
Yeah.
The really good ones are humble and are always learning and are always asking questions and, like, hey man, how did you do that? I had Michael Dolce, one of the greatest guitarists in Australia, right?
Fantastic.
And like honestly, I'm just like, I'm not worthy, right? But at the guitar show a couple of years ago in Melbourne, he's like, hey man, I saw you do this lick on a video. Can you show me, what was it again? What was it? Can you show me this lick? I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you're Michael Dolce, all right? Don't, like, you're the dude, you're the man. And he's like, no,
television stuff.
It was
got to be good to do all that.
He's just incredible.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And he said, no, it's just this little bend thing. It was like a Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. I was like, oh yeah, I know the one. And it's simple as simple. But he just wanted to know. It was and it's just bending up. And I'm like, dude, come on. And he's going, well, no, do it again. I'm like, Michael, like...
It's almost like a Jimmy Vaughan sort of style as well.
So you're bending up to the same... Right? Cool. And it's a cool little lick. And it was just something that he sort of never really... I'm like, yeah, but dude, you play Jeff Beck style. And he goes, oh yeah. I go, yeah, it's that same thing where Jeff Beck goes... Right? He goes, yeah, but...
You know what? From teaching guitar here, the question I get asked more than any other question, how do you bend notes properly? How do you bend notes properly? And I always, because everyone tries to push away, and I always say, just turn into it like you're opening a door. But a lot of people find that very hard to control it and hit the pitch correctly and keep the vibrato there, and even you're getting asked questions by
Michael Dolce.
Yeah.
Holy hell. Yeah.
Humble.
Best
guys are humble.
They're humble. So the martial arts thing, it's really easy to just make an overview of martial arts and you can go, oh well, that's violence and it's combative and it's UFC and I don't want to be involved in that, right? But and then there's a viewpoint from those guys that a lot of traditional martial arts is useless because it reminds me of people that are talking about true bypass versus buffered pedals. It's like, dude, it's subjective, and whatever you need to do on the gig, do that.
Yeah.
Right. But with martial arts, and my own personal experience to do with humility is when you're training and you're being pummeled in jiu-jitsu, being smashed. I just did a day class today and I just got absolutely smashed by my instructor for a solid 15 minutes and there was nothing I could do except for just survive.
Sounds like my jiu-jitsu classes.
Right. And just survive and just tap every single time, tap out. Yeah. Now, it does this thing to you, whether it's chemically or psychologically, where you feel defeated, right? And if you didn't have some kind of emotional fortitude, you could say, well, I don't want to do that. But then you turn that around and you go, well, it just reminds you there's always someone better. There's always someone that knows more, and you should use that as an opportunity to improve yourself, personal best, and just be asking questions and be inquisitive. Be in the inquiry constantly.
I find jiu-jitsu more humbling than any other martial art I've done, because I think if you're doing stand-up stuff and someone's hitting you at a pretty frequent sort of time, then you can kind of almost back away from it. But if you're pinned on the floor by someone in jiu-jitsu, you can't move.
No.
I find it distressing sometimes, because like, oh my God, I cannot move.
No,
this
exactly.
person has got me pinned.
There's a whole lot in it. Just contact, the body contact. You know, we live in a very kind of Anglo society where everything's quite conservative, when we respect each other's personal space. But it ends up that the extreme of that is you can become sort of like a little bit agoraphobic, and I don't want to go out into the world. I just want my own space, you know. We go into a jiu-jitsu class and we hit the mats, and it's like, all right, pair up, and you're with someone you've never met, and next thing you know, you're on the ground and you're drilling techniques, and you're all up in each other's grill, and then you're rolling. It's fantastic that afterwards I just feel so, like I've really done something good for my soul, you know. And so that,
especially when you're getting smashed by a computer program.
Yeah.
What do you do, man?
Oh yeah, look,
desk job. What?
On the mats, you cannot think of anything else.
Well, how long have you been doing? Because obviously you've done karate for a long time. So how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I've done karate most of my life, and then about 7 years ago, I started doing jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
Because
It's amazing.
Because I felt that I eventually got to a point with stand-up that if I didn't start getting to learn some groundwork, I wasn't complete. Well, not complete because you're never complete, but I wanted to be more whole as a martial artist. And ultimately my dream is to reintroduce grappling and holds and groundwork back into our traditional karate.
That's cool. That's amazing. That's the way it should be.
It would have had a place back in the day at some point, but again, we reached those forks in the road, a little bit like the classical guitar and the blues guitar fork. Or we'll go down this road and we'll just do stand-up. And we'll let the judo guys just do the rolling stuff, right? But as a self-defense, as a complete self-defense kind of system, you do need to have the grappling, because
absolutely
90% of any kind of fights on the street always end up on the ground.
Yes,
so you've got to know a
true.
little bit about what you're doing.
I think in the modern world, with improved communication ability and skills, and the days of being segregated in your little community and thinking, oh, you know what, this martial art is the best, or this guitar style is the best. You can see it with modern guitar players like Ariel Posen and Josh Smith. These guys, it's 1 minute it's chicken picking, then it's jazz, then it's shredding, then it's blues. It's unbelievable. They've taken all the styles, and
it's great.
Yeah, I think the UFC kind of showed that a multitude of styles and techniques is what works, and I definitely don't find martial arts violent. It's probably the opposite, honestly. It doesn't. It teaches you to be humble and sensible and avoid stuff.
Absolutely. If you ever want to learn how to not get into a fight, go and do martial arts, because you'll be the first one in a situation to say, "Hey, mate, I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble."
Exactly. If there's some jiu-jitsu black belt, it's like, oh, okay, I see what it's all about. But in the interest of time, Phil, tell us about Rock Academy and what's coming up.
I'd love to tell you about Rock Academy. Rock Academy is my pride and joy. I was called up by a guy called Alan Long, who's become a very good friend of mine. Hey, Alan. And his son was doing a program, a school holiday program, and loved it. Young guitarist, bit of a misfit, didn't really fit in at school, not a misfit, but didn't really fit in with the sporty kids at school, and was a bit of an outsider, just a little bit, and was just lived for the holidays so he could go and do this music holiday program. Anyway, that folded, and those people moved out of town, so the program didn't exist anymore. And kid was like, what am I going to do? His name's Declan. Declan was like, what am I going to do? You know, and Alan said, well, why don't I see if I can put something together? And he's like, nah, Dad, it's a bit uncool having your dad put something together. Anyway, so he lasted one school holidays, and then the next school holidays was like, Dad, do you reckon you might be able to? Yeah,
cool.
So he called around and called a few people and called me, and I'd done quite a lot of stuff in schools. I had a program called Rock Show 101, and we toured around Australia, taking my band into schools and teaching them about how to set up a PA and tricks for the stage, and you know, performing skills, and you know, all of the kind of behind the scenes stuff. And I was just ripe and ready to go for this program. I said, Al, mate, let's do it. So we started the program I think it was about nearly 4 years ago now. It started with like 15 kids, and now it's 80 every school holidays, and we have to. It used to be just
so
one
it's
week.
every school holiday period.
Holiday period.
Wow,
yeah,
that's fantastic.
And so we spread it out over 2 weeks now. So we have 2 groups. It's based out of the Bakehouse in Richmond, in Richmond, and they get the true experience of rehearsing, collaborating, songwriting, and then culminating in a performance night, which we do at one of the greatest sticky carpet venues which still exists in Melbourne, called the Central Club. And it's got this old PA, it's got par cans, you know, not LEDs. And
I have to say, I miss the sticky carpet from the Espy.
Yes, yeah, I know.
The Espy's very nice now, but
it was great.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple program. We form them into groups, and they do a cover, or they pick a cover and then start rehearsing that. Then the next day we do a songwriting workshop, and they write songs, and then we form them into different groups, and they do an original. And then for the rest of the week they get a bunch of workshops as well. We don't teach them music or teach them how to play. They come with at a certain level, and then even if it's very basic, they learn how to collaborate and fit that person in to the group, and then it's all about the gig.
That's
right?
cool.
So if ever they get into strife, or we're not sure how this goes, I'll just go, well, mate, it's Wednesday and the gig's on Friday. And then I leave the room. So there's a couple of so there's a couple of rules. We have mentors. The mentors have to be professional touring working musicians. And we really, really appreciate all of the work that the schools do to kind of pique their interest in music and teach them music. A lot of guitarists are 10 times better than me with what they know, you know, musically. But where we help them is with how to collaborate with other musicians, how to work through songs, how to create structures for songs. We guide them down that road.
There's a massive difference between a bedroom player, which kind of, I'm a bedroom player these days really, and someone such as yourself who's playing 200 gigs a year.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that experience is invaluable.
Yeah, so. It really is, and it's all of that stuff that they're getting straight from the horse's mouth from people who are at the gig.
I think you had Tommy Boyce down there recently. I saw that.
Yeah, he's a legend.
A great guy, great player.
Yeah, and we've had Dave Leslie do a guitar workshop.
Got Dave Leslie coming in next week for a chat. So
I've got a massive man crush on that guy.
I'll tell him that.
I'd be happy if you did. And his guitars, those Grabisa guitars.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my God, you wait to see them. Beautiful.
I sent him a message. It was just from my personal Facebook. Yeah. So he probably had it's like, who is this guy? And sometimes it goes through to your spam folder or something. And he just found it recently, like a week ago. And I already had you booked in, and he's like, "Hey, well, I'd love to do it." And
he's
so I'm looking forward to that as well.
So to sign off with Rock Academy, and I don't mean to be, I'm only going to plug something that I think is really, really valuable.
Yes,
it's got a lot of value. It brings value to the world, and
well, I hear nothing but good reports about it.
Yeah.
One of my customers' sons is in it, Adam Ray. I think
Yep.
he's been, Adam,
Yep.
and so yeah, it's people rave about it.
Yeah, it's great. And for you lovers of rock out there, the future of rock is safe in the hands of our Rock Academy Young Lions, because you'll get a young girl will come in and she's a guitarist or a drummer, and you'll say, so tell me your influences, and she'll say, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, but only the Bon Scott era of AC/DC. And she's like 12.
That's cool.
And I'm like, yes. Yeah. And they deliver. It's amazing. And then they get to perform to a packed room.
That's
and
awesome.
it just fills my heart with love. And
I got to send some students that way.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't do here is push people out for live gigs, because I don't really gig anymore. But I've been thinking about doing something like that at one of the local pubs, and
absolutely,
I should push them your way.
Well, if you need a hand, let me know, because I can really help with that sort of stuff.
Oh, that would be excellent. I love it when young kids come in and I'm like, so what are you listening to? Oh, Bowie, Zeppelin. It's like, man, it's all that same era. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
So, Phil. Yes. I will give you a customary handshake. I know you're a busy man. We'll have to do a part 2 at some time.
Absolutely.
I think I could just keep talking to you forever. But
we'll just do one on martial arts.
That would be cool.
Arts,
yeah. the Colonel and Phil's MMA show.
Yeah.
We'll challenge Joe Rogan. But no one leaves empty-handed here, Phil.
Really?
At the Colonel's House of TV. And I present you with... there we are. Today, it's Little Creatures Pale Ale. We have a beer review show, and these are pretty good. So, thank you so much for coming in. And I mean it about part 2. I feel like it's not long enough. But what have you got? What have you got coming up gig-wise?
Well, I'm gigging most weekends. I'm doing. Obviously, I'm not sure when when this is going to come out, but during this time of need in Australia, I'm doing a lot of bushfire relief gigs. So we've got one coming up. Check out my socials. We've got one coming up this weekend at the Royal Hotel in Mornington.
Yep.
This may not come out before then.
It will.
It will?
Yeah.
Okay, so this weekend at the Royal Hotel in Mornington. And then I'm doing a bushfire relief gig in Ascot Vale, which you'll have to check out my socials. I'll promote that there. And I'm also doing a gig up the bush with Dallas Frasca and Super Jesus. With my band Bigfoot. I've got a new trio,
cool,
relatively new trio, and we do kind of, I guess, power pop, rock, funk, soul, the whole bit.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I'll put all the links in the description.
Yeah.
Go check out Phil Ceberano. He's fantastic, and go up and meet him, because he's super nice and super great, like all the greats are.
I try to be. But if I come across...
You catch him on the wrong day.
If you catch me on the wrong day, it's just...
straight down the...
Yeah.
No. I like Super Jesus as well.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. So I love that fan. But
if you want to have a chat to Sarah, she...
Right. I would love to have a chat with her. So
Yeah.
I might shoot her a message.
Yeah,
and,
do. I'll tell her to expect your...
Thank you. That would be fantastic. If you're watching, please subscribe. All of Phil's stuff will be in the description, as mentioned. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And we have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
I feel when Jimmy Hocking came in, I felt the same way. I'm like, we need a part 2.
Did you speak martial arts with him?
Not much. A little bit, but we didn't really get onto it. Yeah. Taekwondo.
Oh,
I think at the next guitar show, they should set up a little ring in there and do some guitar demonstration, and then some martial arts demonstration. Yeah, I've heard he's pretty good.
He's really good.
He's been doing it for years.
Really good.
Wow.
We've trained a bit together.
He's
cool.
Great. Yeah. Super fit and super healthy. So cool, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in, Phil.
You're welcome.
And catch you next time. I'll catch you next week where we have Dave Leslie coming in, and I'll be on YouTube and Facebook this weekend as well for the regular shows. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.